Okay, so everyone, today is Sunday, May the 21st, and we are continuing in our study of the science of mind. Sakina, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Let's just become still for a few moments. And as we exhale the day's challenges today, let them go and just see them dissipate. And inhale light and love from the Creator, from the Source. Allow that light and love to flow into your mind and your heart, opening them to divine inspiration. For the Source is always speaking to us through each other, through what we see, through what we hear, and through what we feel. And as we begin today's lesson in Science of Mind, remember that this was written at a time many years ago in the 20s and 30s, but it's very pertinent today to each one of us. And on that note, we let it be so, and so it is. Okay, we're going to begin with lesson 5, the perfect whole. It starts with chart number 5 represents the triune unity. The other charts were divided into spirit, soul, and body, symbolizing the conscious part of existence, the law through which it operates, and the result of the operation. But those lines were entirely arbitrary. No such lines could exist, for the threefold universe, with all of its attributes, interspheres itself. We find the spirit or conscious mind, the soul or subconscious mind, and the body, which is the manifestation of the union of spirit and soul, simultaneously present at every point. This chart represents the invisible whole within which all are in which are all of its parts, the absolute within which is the relative, the uncreated within which is all creation. Creation is the giving of form to the substance of spirit. Spirit being all and only, there is nothing for it to change into but itself. Therefore, it is the changeless within which must take place all change or manifestation of itself. Change is simply motion within life. The infinite of itself is formless, but within it are contained all of the forms which are the expressions or the outlines of the experience. Spirit is the limitless, within which is all space. Spirit is timeless, within which is all time. Time is the sequence of events in a unitary whole. Creation and experience are eternally going on, but a particular experience is measured by time and has a beginning and an end. The big circle represents the universal, within which is the individual, the one person within whom are all people. There is only but one person in the universe, but within this one person are all people. But within this one person, all people live. For in him we live and move and have our being. It is the source and center of all life, power, action, truth, love, mind, spirit, the ever and the all. It is, of course, God. Any comments on that? And that is explaining the chart which was on the previous page. And I think, Penelope, you held it up.
Yeah, I was trying to get it, but my room is so dark because I got my new I got my room darkened in shades. Can y'all see it? Can y'all see the chart?
No.
Yeah, we can see the chart, but it's hard to read.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to read anyway because it's so small.
Right.
And I don't know how to put it on the screen. And I'm not in my room anymore. I got kicked out of there.
Okay. Well, I can, if you want, I can read what it says.
Yeah.
If that can help anyone. And after reading that section there, I'm going to read this the same way I read it last week, as starting at the top. So the triune unity, the invisible whole, within which is all of its parts, the absolute within which is the relative, the uncreated within which is the created, the changeless within which is all change, the formless within which is all form, the limitless within which is all space, the timeless within which is all time, the universal within which is the individual, the one person within whom are all people, source and center of all life, power, and action, truth, love, mind, spirit, the ever and the all, God, our Father which art in heaven, the Son, personality, individuality, man. Are we ready to go on?
Wait a minute,
Next,
I just got a lot going on. Because I think that this is really an important section here. So let's not move on too quickly.
okay. And one other thing, after everybody has shared, something that I read this morning, if it's all right with everyone, I'd like to share because it fits into that chart a little bit. So let's go on with anyone want to share anything?
Yeah, I think that for one thing, this little section here. Oh, thank you, man. Okay, thank you. You see, spirit is the limitless within which is all space. Spirit is timeless, which is within which is all time. Time is the sequence of events in a unitary whole. Creation and the experience are eternally going on, but a particular experience is measured by time and has a beginning and an end. And I think that when we understand how we fit into perfection. Come on, wait, oh, okay, wait a minute, y'all. Wait a minute, y'all go ahead. Wait.
Okay, does anyone else want to comment while we're waiting for Penelope?
I'll step in for a minute. From what I kind of got from this passage, it's like not only are we a certain part of the universe, we're in God in a physical, like to manifest a being. The universe is inside of or a part of God, whether it be, I mean, can't really break it down like that, but an arm or a leg, but we're internally inside what we know as the universe is what we would call God's body.
Right, very good. Yeah, we're in God just as God is in us.
Yes.
But everything, it's like this whole planet is God. This whole universe is God.
Just the same as just the same as we have if we look in a microscope and we see our cells, and how our blood moves, that's a whole different universe inside of us. So it's like a universe inside of universe inside a universe.
Good.
Good job.
Anyone else?
And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to finish. But yeah, when it says the spirit is the limitless, within which is all space. And when we think of we're often so, busy defining a thing and calling it something, but we will have an image in our minds. And if we would just not allow that image to be all that there is, and let that image be and let that image be as limitless as it needs to be, and we can see it as a whole. And then when we see that time is always going on, but experience is the thing where experience is the thing that's limited within space and time. So, you know, whatever experience that we might be demonstrating or displaying in our life at this moment, that's the thing that has limitation, and that's the thing that has a time period. So we should only so we don't necessarily have to apply that that experience to all of space and all of time. We can allow that experience to be in its limited form.
Right. Okay. And anyone else?
Yes, I accept the unity of us being one with God. It's just that I accept it, I acknowledge it, but I'm wrestling with totally, I guess the best way to express it is to be totally accepting of this. I accept it, I believe it, I know it, but I still struggle with the idea of being at oneness. If anybody understands what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's realizing and recognizing that we're divine spiritual beings having a human experience, and at the same time we are humans having a divine experience.
Wow, that's deep.
And also, I kind of feel that this is kind of where we were. I think it was where we were doing A Course in Miracles the other day, and you know what we have been taught, that has a place that, you know, that's a graven image. A lot of times we have been taught that we are separated from God, so that image has been engraved in our minds, and we have to release that graven image to become part of the whole again. Because when if we have been taught that, you know, God is up there in the sky somewhere, and we're, you know, down here on the earth, you know, separate from that. Now, that's the thing that, you know, our consciousness has created as limited. So now we live in this limited experience thinking that we are only separated. And, you know, and this is what this is saying here, is that spirit is the limitless. So when we allow that wholeness of spirit to come in, revive, reanimate, you know, recreate unity within us, that's the thing that makes us whole. And then we don't have to see time and space in only a limited form, because we get past separation.
Right. It's like realizing that every single blade of grass is God. Every single leaf is God. Every breath we take, we are inhaling God as we exhale.
Looking at that tape.
And then,
What'd you say, T?
Sorry, everybody. Dante just joined us.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, hey, Dante, how are you?
I'm good.
Glad you can make it today.
Man, pleasure.
okay. If everyone is done sharing, I read Dr. Masters had done a transcendent interpretation of the Lord's Prayer, and I felt as I was reading this might fit in. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
This is by Dr. Leon Masters. Transcendent interpretation of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, Mother God, who is in the kingdom of heavenly consciousness within our minds. Holy be your presence in our awareness. We open our minds to your kingdom of higher heavenly consciousness. Awaken our earthly direction in life to the universal will of your heavenly mind. Give us this day our daily nourishment of the presence of your spirit. And as you forgive us, so in turn, may we, by your presence in our minds, forgive others, and inwardly guide us away from all that is not of your presence into your light. For yours is our true inner power and the glory of our true selfhood forever and ever. And when I first read this, I felt very connected with it and also with God in that sense, and didn't understand why I was reading it today until I opened the Science of Mind, and I felt it fell into what we will be studying today and talking about. So thank you for listening to that. And he wrote that many years ago. I think it was when I first started studying with him that I came across it.
Mm.
Okay, we ready to go on? Next section is entitled Individuality. The point within the big circle represents the personality and individuality of man, indicating that he is a center in the divine mind of God. Man is the personification of the infinite life, and so we place just above this point and on the inside of it, the sun. And just above this, with no line to divide them, are written the words, Our Father, which art in heaven, taken from the Lord's Prayer. There is no difference between God, the absolute, which is our Father in heaven, and the Son, so far as actual being is concerned. The Son is simply a point where God recognizes himself as personality or individualized being. It is within that we find the unity of God and man. There is no separation. Man, having his existence in the unitary whole, which is indivisible, is compelled to accept the fact that his life is God or spirit. But to say that man is God, which is equivalent to saying that any part equals the whole, is to contradict logic and reason and limit the limitless idea. It is enough to say that we are at one with the whole. It is both within and without. In perhaps a more liberal sense, we could say man is in God, immersed in God, saturated with God. God permeates all life, and in man we find that this infinite mind or intelligence comes to a point of individualized self-consciousness. Theoretically, we believe that the personality which we possess is on the pathway of self-discovery, for everything bears witness to this belief. As fast as we discover any truth, it is there to use. We never create truth, we discover and use it. We believe then that as man continuously unfolds his personality, he will find latent capacities of which he has never dreamed. Any comments or sharing? That you
That
have?
Man,
was
I thought I liked to
that-
talk. I thought I liked to beat around the bush.
Well, to me, that passage was a direct message. It was directed to me.
Well, what did it tell you?
it it just tells me that I need to, when I mentioned earlier that I accept I understand, but I'm wrestling with it. And this is telling me that continue to work with it, continue to wrestle with it until you do totally, wholly, and fully accept the oneness with God and the universe. Or my,
I caught that, Miss Harriet. It was just, I mean, like I said, I thought I was long-winded.
Yeah.
I did, you know, I kind of caught it from understanding where he was coming from and where I kind of see my placement, which is no, you know, am I a God? No. Am I a part of a creation that is a oneness with? Yes. Can I focus myself into it? Sometimes, you know, sometimes you got it, sometimes you don't. But it's the experiences that we go through. So I kind of caught it. It was like I said, I thought I could talk. Boy, he talked on that one.
The part here that caught me was where he says, man is in God, immersed in God, saturated with God. And if you can just imagine, you know how when you saturate something, how it just, you know, the water, it's like a sponge, you saturate it, it's just coming out all over the place. And I thought that really touched me, that if we could feel and sense that we are saturated with God, that everything we do from a godly, divine aspect. And if we, as we keep doing that, before you know it, we begin to feel that we aren't separated, you know, that God is just pouring out of our pores and pouring into our pores at the same time. So anyway, that's the line that kind of caught my attention a great deal.
For me, this whole part about individuality is also a study on the ego, how we, just like you were using the analogy of the sponge. Well, you know, when the sponge is filled with water, you can't see the water. You can really only see the sponge. And if you have come in when the sponge is full, you believe that the sponge, that is the sponge, that it has nothing to do with the water. And each of us, when we only see ourselves as that, as an individual, you know, that's that egocentricity that, you know, most humans have. And, you know, we do for some, you know, our egos, because we are in the image of, you know, creator, we think that we are the God. And the more, just like the sponge, the bigger the sponge, the more water that sponge has. No one is paying attention to the water that is within it. They're only seeing the sponge. And if the sponge is saying, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the fullest, I'm right, I will make laws to make you think of think only of me and how I want you to think, then we can't. That's when we have this the disconnection, believing that we are separated from the whole. But like you were saying, Sakina, if each of us were allowed, and I think I would like to use the word allowed, to see spirit as we see spirit. You know, I don't have to have someone dictating to me what spirit is supposed to look like, you know, act like, be. You know, if each of us were allowed that freedom to say that, oh yeah, I am allowed to be, you know, to express my spirit this way, then, you know, then I can trust you, because I can trust that you are allowing spirit to see it the way that you see it. And if we all allowed each other to live peacefully, I think that, you know, because we often get so caught up into individuality, especially in America. I don't know where else in the world, but especially in America where individuality is so celebrated, it's really difficult not to, to really pull away from that thing that was shoved down our throat, that this is the way you're supposed to believe, this is the way you're supposed to act, this is the way you're supposed to look. And I have all of this water inside of me to say that I'm much more powerful than you, because I will take away all that is within you until you say, do, and act as I want to. But still there's still that thing that's inside that you can't stop spirit from moving. You can't stop that the spirit to rise up and to display itself. And I think that the more we allow each other, even and ourselves, to be honest with ourselves, to be authentic, to be truthful with ourselves, then I'm comfortable with all the water that you got in your sponge. I'm comfortable with that because I have as much water in my sponge, and I am well, and I want everybody to see the same. So this is one of the things that I'm saying, and this is so in alignment with. I don't even know what that class was that we just talked about this just the other day. It's amazing to me.
Mhm. Okay, we ready to go on?
Yes.
Okay, this next section
Hey,
is
just want you to know that you can speak up whenever you want to. What we're studying right now, I'm just going to take a little section right now, because Tay is new. What we're studying now is called the Science of Mind. It's a philosophy of thought by Ernest Holmes. He's one of the earlier philosophers that had to do with the New Thought system, where metaphysics kind of is, I don't know, born out of, which one came first, New Thought, metaphysics? I don't know, chicken and the egg, so, but he's one of those founding fathers that started really bringing it to the mainstream. This was back in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. I think the book itself was written in the 20s. So this is what we're studying, and in the science of mind really emphasizes our thinking and how we use and that our thoughts are bona fide things. That's really who we are in essence. Sakina, do you want to add on to that?
well, basically, he pulled away from the Christianity in the sense of putting Jesus and all those who came before on pedestals, and bringing it into the fact that we carry within us God, and we live in God, and our minds can be fed many different thoughts, but if we maintain our spirituality and our oneness, we can let go of those thoughts before they become manifested things, and that we draw to us like thoughts. And much of what he shares is helping us to understand how the mind works and how these thoughts come into being. And as we've all experienced being told one thing, and as we got a little older, finding out that it was different from the way we had been taught, and allowing us to kind of open our minds and our thinking to what if, as opposed to the law. This is the way it's done, this is the way it's always been, this is the way it's going to be. And Ernest Holmes, in a sense, is saying, no, let's open our minds to a new thought, to a new way of looking at something, and then digesting it for ourselves, and not really relying on any one person to tell us that this is the way it has to be.
Thank y'all.
At least that's how I saw his writings in the beginning.
Okay, what was his name again?
It's
So,
Ernest Holmes, Holmes.
Okay, thank you so much.
He was born in the 1800s, and this book, the one that I have, the edition I have, was written in 1926. But as you know, we all know, a book, when it comes into being published, it's been written years ahead of time. You know, much earlier, before it gets into the format of a book that we're able to read.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Please.
Okay, I believe everything is about the mindset. So for me, here goes. When you called me earlier to say, how are you doing? I could say, oh, I'm not doing well because my car is stuck in the mud, blah, 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 blah. Even though my car is stuck in the mud and I had to walk 2 miles just to pay my phone bill to keep my phone on. But at the end of the day, I didn't stop my thoughts say, okay, I'm stuck. I said, no, keep moving forward. So when I was walking, just 2 miles, I was able to look at the sun. I was able to look at things around that I could normally do when I was driving. So even though I was really tired when I got home, but at the end of the day, I said, it's okay because I was actually able to move forward. So my mindset, I could be like, oh, I'm stuck down. But my mindset, no, keep moving forward. So with my mindset, I said, it's a celebration, even if my car is stuck in the mud. So if my car is stuck in the mud and I can't move for a week, that's okay. It'll be back driving a week down the road. And so my mindset told me to say, I could go down in my thought process as a negative, but I look at it as a celebration because even if I had to walk, I'm glad that I can walk. So it's how I look at things in life. So my mindset is to look at things in a positive mindset instead of a negative.
Right. Well, it's like your car is stuck, but you aren't.
Right.
The I am in you keeps
Mhm.
right on moving forward. It just adapts.
Correct.
That's wonderful. And that's how, if we stop to think about it, what may seem negative to one person may not seem that way to another person, because we learn to adapt. We learn to, in a sense, transform a negative into a positive. And that in itself can be considered a miracle, because there are many people who don't know how to do that. You know, there are many people who look at some of the things that happen to them as not so good. And there are those of us who the same thing happens to us, but we go, hey, wait a minute, I can do this instead. I can, I can manage to change that negative into a positive, into a blessing in disguise. Just like I said to you before we started, Forrest, about you'll save on gas.
Right.
So anyhow,
Yes.
but that's true. And that's, in a sense, what our minds need to do, is to learn how to, and to realize that our minds know how to change anything that happens to us or anything that we're told into a blessing for us.
Right.
Yes, Harriet?
No, I was going to say saving on gas and getting healthier at the same time.
Yeah, true. Enjoying nature.
And when you
Exactly.
think about anything that has been changed in the world, it has been changed because of a thought,
Mhm.
and that thought, that thought creates a building, that thought creates a vessel, that thought creates a mindset, so when we think about that, our minds as a science, and that's basically what metaphysics is, going beyond, understanding that it's the study of the science of spirit, where so it's not necessarily, metaphysics is not a religion, but it is, it's a philosophy, it's a science. It's just like philosophy, or psychology, or it's that type of a science. That's what metaphysics is.
Yeah, it's the what if, you know.
Mhm.
So I also want to say this, if I may. So when I was paying that bill, I called the people, and it was going through some ups and downs, but both people that I spoke to, they prayed. We prayed. We're actually able to pray. So goodness is that even if I had to walk to pay that bill, I was actually able to connect with two people in prayer. So it turned out to be good.
Wonderful.
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on. This next section is entitled Further Evolution. Since his whole life is the unfulfillment of intelligence, according to law, man can only evolve as he recognizes greater possibilities. There could be no other way. The arbitrary process of evolution ceased when man became an individual, and any further evolution will be through self-recognition. But back of him is the whole of life surging to express itself. This is what is known as the divine urge. It is that instinctive, omniscient I am in man, always pushing him on and up. But it can only express for him as it flows through him. That person has the greatest power who the most completely recognizes himself to be one with his infinite mind. That is why Jesus said, I speak not of myself. It is not this individualized point, but the Father that dwelleth in me, that is God, our Father which is in heaven. He doeth the works. The evolution of man, which is the unfoldment of spirit through his personality, will be more complete when his objective and subjective faculties are more perfectly balanced. That is, when he has conscious control of the spiritual forces which surge for expression. The psychological nature has to change somewhat, and the subjective tendencies that hinder the whole from coming to a point of conscious contact must be neutralized. This would produce illumination of the conscious, this would produce illumination or the consciousness of his unity with the whole. In treatment, we work until we penetrate the false thought within and break through to reality. There is no limitation, either in infinite intelligence or in infinite law. The whole limitation which we experience is not of itself a reality or an entity, but is simply one of the forms within the formless which we are outlining. Any comments there?
One of the things, I mean, just this last paragraph alone, in treatment, we work until we penetrate the false thought within. And Harriet, that's what you and I were speaking of. What were we talking? Was this on the Course of Miracles? Well, when we were talking about, when we uh, eliminating that false thought. This is what treatment does. We treat ourselves first so that we are completely clear. And then when we don't have any limitation, it's easier to extend that out to those who temporarily have less, because we temporarily have more. This is one of the things that I'm seeing, that this is what I feel that our next evolutionary stage is that, we will focus more on thought than on form.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anyone else? This next section is entitled The Truth is Known. Our conscious intelligence is as much of life as we understand. We have stopped looking for the spirit because we have found it. It is what you are, and it is what I am. We could not be anything else if we tried. The thing that we look with is the thing that we have been looking for. That is why it is written, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. We have stopped looking for the law. We have found it. In the universe, we call it universal subjectivity or soul. In our own experience, we call it the subjective state of our thought, which is our individual use of universal law. We have found the law and demonstrated it. we find that both the law and the spirit are limitless. What is it that we need for a greater freedom? Nothing but a greater realization of what we already know. We should never hesitate to say that we know the truth, because we do. For the realization of the unity of God and man is the truth. We simply need a greater realization of this. How are we to get it? Only by penetrating deeper and yet deeper into our own divine nature, pushing farther and farther back into the infinite. Where are we to do that? There is no place except within that we can do it. Who is to do it for us? No one. No one can. People can heal us. They can set the law in motion for us and help us to become prosperous. That is good and helpful. But the evolution of the individual, the unfoldment of personality, the enlightenment of the soul, the illumination of spirit can come only to the degree that the individual himself proposes to let life operate through him. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. This is the mind of God, the only mind, the supreme intelligence of the universe.
Wow. You know, that just, I don't even know where to begin. But what I'm seeing here is that what we learn growing up, what those more experienced, our elders, teach us is based on their own experience. And what we as teachers need to keep in mind is we are passing on the knowledge that we have and how it has benefited us. In other words, our truth. But my truth is not necessarily your truth. And I think what we need to learn, and what so many need to learn, is that being able to pass on our knowledge and experience and anything that we feel we necessary to share with others, and let them take it for what it is and use it to their benefit. We don't dictate to others how to do, what to think, or anything like that. We just pass on what we know, what we have experienced, and let them pick and choose from the knowledge that we pass on to them to use as they see fit and what benefits them and helps them to move ahead. And they in turn become teachers themselves to those that they encounter.
Right, right. Very good, Harriet. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, this next section is entitled, The Answer is in Man. The answer to every question is within man, because man is within spirit, and spirit is an indivisible whole. The solution to every problem is within man. The healing of all disease is within man. The forgiveness of all sin is within man. The raising of the dead is within man. Heaven is within man. That is why Jesus prayed to this indwelling I am and said, Our Father which art in heaven. He also said, the kingdom of God is within you. Each of us then represents the whole. How should we feel toward the whole? In the old order, we thought of the whole as a sort of mandatory power, an autocratic government, an arbitrary God, sending some to heaven and some to hell, and all for his glory. Now we are more enlightened, and we realize that there can be no such a divine being. We have meditated upon the vastness of the universe of law, and we have said, God is law. There is a divine principle, which is God. In the new order, we are liable to fall into a great, in the new order, we are liable to fall into as great an error as the old thought fell into, unless we go much deeper than thinking of God simply as principle. God is more than law or principle. God is the infinite spirit, the limitless, conscious life of the universe, the one infinite person within whom all people live. The law is simply a force. Any comment there, or would you like me to go on?
Yeah. And these concepts are really, really big, and they are mind shifting. So, if you don't mind, Sakina, I would like to slow down, just because if somebody doesn't have anything to say about it, doesn't mean that we need to move on, because the concepts are so big. And if, like I said, it has taken me many years, many years, not to see God as a man in the sky somewhere, separated from me. And so these, when we see ourselves as, here, we just use a lot of big words here. We use law, we use principle, we use universe, we use, a lot of heaven and hell. I think that this paragraph here, we can really probably really delve into this, so that we can come of a, really real big understanding of whole. So I'm going to ask everybody, what is your individual concept of whole? What does everybody think whole is?
Completeness.
Harriet, how about you?
I would say a unity and completeness, complete unity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about you, Andre?
Um, a
Uh-oh.
when I wholeness, it's something that has been fulfilled,
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about you, Forrest?
My phone's going in and out.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm
yeah.
just listening. Sorry.
Because like the very beginning, the answer to every question within man, because man is within spirit, and spirit is the indivisible whole. So it's most of the time I know I was taught that my spirit was separate from your spirit, and everybody has, so all of these little ghosts come out of the spirit, and it floats up to the sky, and that little individual who looks kind of sort of like me will sit on the cloud and either be in heaven sitting on the cloud, or if I was not good or didn't follow everybody's rules, then that spirit will go to hell. And now I have to and God is that divining powers. I mean, that source of power. So it is a difficult mindset to shift to think that the same God that is willing to send me to hell for the other little thing that I did is going to balance that out with the good big thing that I did. So I think that this is what this paragraph is helping us to understand, is that when we see that type of power within, we have to shift all of our ways of thinking about it to understand that, first of all, it simply rests on love. That,
even
Well, yeah, I also see it as the way that you explain it, Penn, is that first of all, we need to stop punishing ourselves
mm,
for a mistake or a setback. We kind of, you know, punish ourselves in a sense when we feel that we are not on track on what we are supposed to be doing, you know. And I think that's or where we feel that we are supposed to be, or where people say that we are supposed to be, or
mm,
society.
Uh,
So if we make a mistake, you know, you're late for work, or you know, or certain things. Even, I mean, even if you're naive to going to jail, you know, if you know, you're hungry, you're a child, and you know, you steal a piece of candy, you know, it's the end of the world now for those type of laws, you know, versus at a time you could be corrected, like, hey, wait a minute, you stole that piece of candy, you know, we're not going to lock you up and throw away the key, we're going to make you work in our store. So you learn how to get what you learn a skill to understand, to get what you need to get, you
mhm.
know. So I think it's kind of that those two sections of punishing ourselves as well. We have to learn to stop punishing ourselves, to stop punishing others so harshly.
Yeah. Um, I'm glad you brought that up, Penelope, and also Andre, because I always wondered in life why I was having a challenge, because from a very early age, I didn't believe, even though the Catholic Church taught a certain thing, and um, different individuals, you know, said you had to do this, or the media said this was going to happen. I was one of those pessimistic people that never believed, you know, it just because I read it or just because I was told that. I was one of those children that had to experience, like, even though the sign said wet paint, I would be one of those children that would inconspicuously, you know, reach under the chair to see if it was really wet, or in a corner of the bench to see if it was wet, or stand by the stove to see if it was hot. Maybe not touch the stove, but stand to see if it was actually hot, or by the refrigerator to see if it was really cold. And I did that at a very early age, so I didn't have to undo um, a lot of the thinking that, you know, you and other adults that I've come across had to unlearn, so to speak. Um, and that's where I think and feel that as parents, grandparents, great grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever, as the adults we've become, along with what Harriet said about not, you know, not telling somebody they have to think this way, but allowing us to express the wisdom. And if a person feels moved to accept it, they accept it. If not, they just let it go by. Um, but not to get our young people so hooked and brainwashed into the ways that some of us might have been taught in earlier times and had to unlearn, so to speak. And that's what I think Ernest Holmes and Edgar Casey and Charles Fillmore and the Buddha and Jesus and others have had to do in their lifetime, and had the courage to say no. You know, um, the law says you got to do this, that, and the other, but in a sense, in reality, trust in your heart and what your heart is telling you, what the divine within you is telling you. You don't have to follow it just because it's written in the Torah or the Bible or in the any other holy book, or the weatherman says this, that, or the other. You know, you got to trust within yourself and know that within you. And I think, Penelope, you brought that up, which opened that door to help me to understand a little bit more why, in talking to people, I had a hard time understanding where they were coming from. And it was because I wasn't realizing that all their life they had looked at something with what they had been taught and what they had been told. So thank you for bringing that up.
Mhm. Another thing that I think that's here that was really kind of interesting to me. Where is it? It says that God is law and God is principle. But here, okay, where is it? That there's a divine principle which is God. In the new order, we are liable to fall into as great an error as the old thought fell into, unless we go much deeper than thinking of God simply as principle, meaning first cause. God is more than law, which is that universal law, or principle. God is the infinite spirit, the limitless conscious life of the universe, the one infinite person within whom all people live. The law is simply a force. And I think that because that concept in itself, first of all, is really big to understand, period. But then you don't know how to fit that into whatever your con scheme is, so that you can have all of the power. You know, so we because even maybe all loving, very altruistic people taught us that yes, God is that man in the sky, and you are separated from him because of X, Y, and Z. They did that believing themselves to be altruistic because they just didn't know anybody better. But then there were also people that saw the profit and the gain within that and the power that they could have in it. So those two concepts combine. So when we are, I think, mature enough in our emotional intelligence and our spiritual intelligence, we're able to like kind of sort it out. So we can see where, okay, yeah, you meant as well as you possibly could by telling me that God is in the sky, because that's what you believed, and you want me to be as happy as you are. And now that I can see that that was where you thought, I've outgrown that, but now I have to try to detach the law, which is the man-made law that is attached to it, that has fines and
so many different,
so many roadblocks. Now I have to combat that. So I can't only think in spirit. I have to be in both places at once until I can get that sorted out. And I think that most people don't can't figure out how to do that. And we're really not taught. I haven't been. This is stuff that I have to figure out on my own.
I do have a question.
If I can interject just 1 minute here, Andre. As a little kid, one of the first things that we learn is that God is everywhere. And when when the nuns or priests would say to me that God's in heaven, I questioned that as a kid. Right? Because if God is everywhere, how could God just be in the sky if God is everywhere? And that's the one thing that as we grow, we're never taught to question. And that's the one thing that we are supposed to do, is to question everything. And we're not taught that. We're taught to accept because so-and-so is older, your brother is older, your sister's older, they know what to do, follow them. But on the other hand, there are those of us that we questioned everything from day one, basically, according to what my mother used to say. she told me one time, says, you came out with a question, you know. And
Not only that, you can learn from a child.
oh yeah, there are
Because
teachers.
I used to be a very impatient individual, and it took my oldest son as a baby before he could even walk and talk. He taught me patience.
Yeah, they do. Okay, Andre, you had something to say, and I apologize for
Oh,
interrupting,
no
but
problem. I just had a question, which is like what we're speaking of in the texts that we're speaking of, which is this knowledge is not forbidden to the people who we are supposed to support and look up to, as far as if we are in a certain religion. So why aren't these things being taught in in this type of form of, why are we still having to dig and graduate the way that you and you and Penelope were speaking of, even having to ask the question why, when this knowledge is already known to the people who our parents
okay.
get this
I can't,
knowledge from.
okay, I can't speak for Penelope, and I'll let her answer that too, but I think part of it is their ego. They want to be in authority, and you know, it's like the priest wanted to, you know, be in authority over the people, so to speak. And also there was money to be made. One of my biggest gripes, and I've said this many times before, was being lied to in the Catholic Church when they said we needed to tithe more because God needed our tithes. Where in essence, the church needed more money to pay the electric bill or the gas bill. So why not be honest and say, please give a little bit more so we can pay our bills, you know? And there are certain, I think,
Well,
different
yeah,
people of the cloth who, you know, they make money out of some of
yeah,
this.
I understand. I understand the aspect of that point,
Yeah.
and I can see the backside and the diabolical point of that. It's always been there, from whether we speak of ancient time in Rome to, you know, the 1920s, where we're speaking of in where we're reading from this book now. I'm just saying, isn't it strange that we are still being regurgitated the same things over and over again until we decide to go for our own and graduate? Why aren't we being taught the same way that we're speaking to one another right now, in that spiritual manner, versus still being taught by law?
Some people are afraid to let go of the religion they were brought up in.
And things and I really think culture has a lot to do with it. In America, our culture is individualism. It is not unity. It's not one of being united, although we call ourselves the United States. We, you know, we have always been you know, the egocentric part of, you know, of us being seen as individuals. You know, we have the right to pursue happiness, you know. So all of those, so it's those kind of things that keep for me, they keep us separated. But also yeah, and a lot of it has to do with money, a lot of it has to do with power, a lot of it has to do with ego. But this takes time. It takes time to understand what it means. And I think that for me, each and every you know, generation or so many generations has something critical that happens so that the shift changes. I think that whatever happened in the 60s that made everybody want to have peace and love is, you know, what wasn't like an outpouring of consciousness. And so that was something that brought in that whole concept of, okay, the world is one place. Then we started having Earth Day, things like that. We started, because, you know, more and more people around the earth were found now. So that let us know that we were going to be one earth. And I think that now where we are, it seems like it's bad because, you know, we love bad news first, but when we really look at it, the youth, the young people, they are really seeing the shift. They
Yeah.
don't think the same way we do. You know, nobody's gonna sit around on a job for 25 years, get some a silver bowl. I wish,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So, you know, so I think that because we are evolving and we are in this part of this evolutionary place, but it takes each individual, first of all, to want to, you know, to see it you know, where through unity as a whole. And then you have to grow into it. You really have to grow into it. I think it just takes time. But I also think that certain things happen, what's the word, psychically, maybe psychically. Like, you know, there was a big thing that happened in the 60s. I think hatred came in the 2000s. And, you know, that's that swirl that's happening now. You know, people are either on one side or the other side. And I think that is going to like help the velocity of the evolutionary process. And I think that we're just experiencing that.
Mhm.
That's just me.
Well, I think what you touch upon it. It does take time, and it's when we're ready.
Mhm.
And as you know, as I'm seeing with our group, you know, for lack of anything better, is that each of us is ready. And people who have tuned into our group, some people are ready, some people aren't ready. You know, they tune in out of curiosity, but then they some stay and some, you know, move on because they're just not ready. And it's not being ready as far as our age, you know, whether, you know, we're in our 60s or in our 20s, you know, it has to do with that internal growth that you have within you. When it's ready to grow and to move on, then you begin to dig into the deeper things. You begin to want to know more about yourself and realize that as each of us grow, we're going to allow it to flow through us more, and others will pick up on it. And as Harriet had mentioned earlier, you know, we may send out our wisdom to the younger people, you know, within our own family and that type of thing. And if they're ready, they'll hear what we're saying. If they're not, it'll just go in one ear and out the other, and it won't stop. But if they're ready, what we're saying, you know, will help them so that they don't become brainwashed or hooked in and may learn at a younger age than, you know, our age.
Sometimes, I was going to say sometimes it might go in one ear and out the other, but then it will make a
Comes back.
U-turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
also,
know.
I'm just gonna say one more thing, that, you know, when we talk about the kingdom of God is within, that's a tough conversation to have with somebody who is not of like mind.
Right. Right.
You know, that can cause up a lot of distress. You know,
Yeah.
so you kind of, you know, you know, so it's a message that's hard to share. Although it's written right there, it still is a message that's hard to share. And it really, what's that word that's, you know, is cognitive dissonance. You know, it really causes that, so that I'm going to really push back on, because I have believed this, and this is the only thing I want to believe, and I don't want to hear your new stuff that, yes, it makes perfect sense to me, but no, I don't want to hear that.
And it's not really new, as Andre pointed out. You know, it goes back to, you know, the beginning of time, basically, in a sense.
Mhm.
One of the things that came to my mind recently is the lack of girlfriends that I have, and the lack of friends. And it dawned on me, part of the reason was when I was growing up, I was coming sort of, so to speak, from left field. And so kids didn't want to be around me because they didn't understand where I was coming from and that. And as I've gotten older, I've noticed that there's certain adults that I can relate to very easily. But then there are some who they don't want to hear where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
Or, you know, if I mention, like if they say, well, what book have you read recently? And I tell them, and it's like, oh, geez, I don't want to read that, you know, type of thing. So it all boils down to when we are ready,
Mhm.
the teacher appears. And that teacher may not actually be in the form of a person.
Right.
We may be watching the movie Fast and Furious. I don't know much about that movie, but I do know it's about cars and all that type of thing. And something will come to us out of that movie.
Mhm.
And yet it's not the main line in that movie, but some little thing will strike us and open a door for us.
Mhm.
When Forrest was sharing about his car, the first thing that came to my mind, and it was only because it was just recent, I was going to babysit my great granddaughter, and I only had 30 miles to the empty. And so when he said he was going to be without his car for a few days, first thing that came to my mind is the saving on gas. But then as he talked now, what came to my mind when him saying walking is his energy,
Mhm.
without him realizing it, as he's walking along that ground, his energy is making that area more sacred, more special. For anybody else walking along there, they may not realize it was him, but he gives off that energy. Andre gives off an energy that that enthusiasm that he has for whatever it is he's studying or reading or whatever he's going through. That comes through when he comes on the camp, you know, when you see his face, that energy that comes. Harriet through her words, and Penelope through what you say. So we're constantly giving off energy unbeknownst to us that is beautiful and sacred, that is going to help whatever else comes along that way. And we don't need to know who it's helping or how it's helping. All we need to know is that it's flowing through us and it's making space for more energy from the divine to come through and work through us.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's really that was really good because when you think, and you know, I'm just looking back at this last line. God is the infinite spirit, the limitless conscious life of the universe, the one infinite person within whom all people live. The law is simply a force. And you know, I guess maybe right here, because he says that God is more than, and I think that what he's telling us is don't get stuck into any one thing, you know. One form of knowledge. I mean, it's good to understand that, but that's not all that there is. There's still something more than just that. You know, you can always keep adding into what you say that God is, you know. Because I think that many people, first of all, they think that whatever religion there is, that's who God is. God is a Catholic, God is a Baptist, you know, God is, you know, and he's not anything else other than that. So yeah, I think that if we allow the infinite to continue, you know, that's why it's, you know, it can be difficult for people to see that. Well, that was the
Do we want to go on to the next section?
it's 3:25, but we started a little bit later. Didn't we start like quarter after?
Yeah. Do we want to
Um,
finish this section?
So you want to do God infinite personality? Want to do this one, because we probably have a lot to say about that too.
Yeah, and I was just going to say and finish with that.
Yeah.
God, infinite personality. God or spirit is supreme, infinite, limitless personality. And we should think of the divine being as such, as completely responsive to everything we do. There should come to us a sense of communion, a spontaneous sense of irresistible union. If we had that, we would demonstrate instantaneously. An evolved soul is always a worshiper of God. He worships God in everything, for God is in everything. God not only is in everything, but he is more than everything. He is in. Ye are the light of the world. That is God in us. All that we are is God, yet God is more than all we are. The nearer consciousness gets to the truth, the more cosmic sweep it has, the more power it has. Angels wait upon individuals who perceive cosmic purposes and powers, because the whole is crowding forth into expression. Let a man recognize a let me try this again. Let a man recognize a cosmic purpose, which is the expression of life, truth, and love. Let his thought vibrate to the higher and grander realization of life and see how automatically he becomes more powerful. The process of healing and demonstration is, at first, mechanical and scientific. Then the fire of spirit is added to make it real. One is technique, the other is the pulsating life and glow. We need the recognition of love, coupled with a scientific understanding of what we are doing. Thoughts are things, and diseases are the direct result of specific thoughts somewhere in consciousness. Poverty is the direct result of a subjective state of thought which binds. Any comment there?
Oh, I'm going, okay, yeah. I'm going to say, I'll let somebody else go first.
Um, I did understand where he was speaking as far as us understanding how we produce and how we dispense love as well, and understanding. I don't, on the last part kind of lost me a little bit, and on that part it lost me because I'm, certain things I don't think that people are necessarily aware of when it comes to certain things. You know, poverty, yes, is not a state of, is yes, can be a state of mind, but can also be a state of being as well. So I kind of got a mixed feeling on that, and, and that kind of threw me off from where I wanted to go with my conversation on that one, because kind of the tail end kind of threw me off. But I do understand what he was saying as far as identifying to a degree.
I'm going to reread that last line there, Andre, only because I think it might help you, because as I reread it, it kind of helped me to understand something a little bit better. The last line was, poverty is
Read
the
that,
direct.
just do the whole paragraph, the last paragraph.
All right. The process of healing and demonstration is, at first, mechanical and scientific. Then the fire of spirit is added to make it real. One is technique. The other is the pulsating life and glow. We need the recognition of love, coupled with a scientific understanding of what we are doing. Thoughts are things, and diseases are the direct result of specific thoughts somewhere in consciousness. Poverty is the direct result of subjective state of thought which binds. What I was going to add to that was, if you think you're poor, that thought will bind you to being poor. On the other hand, if you are poor and yet you think that I may be poor monetarily, but I'm rich in spirit. Then that thought won't bind you to a life of poverty. It'll make you realize that no matter whether you have $1 in your pocket or $100, you've got the beauty of spirit within you that is going to allow you to use that dollar to get whatever it is you need. And that $100 may rot in the bank. So that's what I thought he meant by that line. And I could be mistaken, but it's how we think about things determines whether it's going to lock us in to a life of poor me or to a life of so it is. And I can move on from this. And Forrest had mentioned it, that his car was stuck, but not his mind. His mind was telling him he could do this instead. You know, he could walk 2 miles. He had the ability to walk the 2 miles to pay a bill. He didn't need the car necessarily. So his mind wasn't locking him into the fact that the car was stuck. And that's just an example. And that's what I think he was doing, Ernest was saying with this line, this last line. I don't know if that helps you, Andre, or not, but
I think for me, what this whole kind of paragraph is saying, because it is saying that, you know, thoughts are things. So yes, we would be able to demonstrate, which means to bring things into manifestation. That's what demonstrate means here. Instantaneously, if our thoughts were completely unionized, completely in union with creation. And he's saying that, you know, when we have, because we do often have negative thoughts create negative things. So that's why, you know, where is it? There was one of these other things that mentioned it. It might have been in another paragraph, but when we are, because we are learning how to use our infinite power in our God self. So it wants us to learn how to, you know, become completely separate, because if we're thinking of poverty, and poverty doesn't mean that I'm thinking of my poverty. Poverty means that I'm thinking to make somebody else poor so that I can have more. I'm creating poverty because I have such a lack mentality. I am so obsessed with riches so that I don't be poor. So I will make you poor so that I don't have to. And I think that, you know, it all accounts to where you are in your mind, because sometimes it is easy to come out of poverty. And, you know, yeah, I might not have a poverty mindset, but I'm living in a crumbling house, you know, either, you know, all the whole time. I might not see myself as poor, but I am on the outside, you know. But, you know, we also, I think the more complete we are in our ability to demonstrate, it will make somebody else, it will make somebody else less and less and less. You know, that greedy person that's sitting on the hill, that Rockefeller who's sitting on the hill, that has, you know, that every now and then he wants to put on a public show and give some kids some dimes.
Book bags.
Right, yeah.
They use book bags now.
Right, so that, you know, so that now I know that I'm able to separate. Okay, that's just you in your fear scamming everybody. So I don't have to be a part of that. And I can also prosper and bless myself, because I really have no need, because I don't see lack. So if I have 4 cans of beans, I can give you 3 because I know that somebody else is getting ready to bring me 6. So, you know, I am automatically always demonstrating through my creative power. And this is what this whole chapter is telling us. Well, really what the whole book is telling us is how to how to bring these, how to cleanse our minds so that we can treat ourselves, demonstrate, we understand laws of the universe, we understand what principle is, we understand what all of these vague words were that we were taught as, and I want to say as children, but if we, however long we chose to stay within a philosophical organization or a religion, we learned that we did that. Nothing changed from childhood to
Adulthood.
you ready to
Yeah.
put you into a grave. We all, they're going to show it to you the same way. So I think that as we learn how to first of all be bold enough, and Sakina uses this word a lot, is courage, to be courageous enough to, yeah, I know when I come to you and I tell you that the kingdom of heaven is within, and you are going to, that's just gonna flip you right out. You know, I should not be afraid to say that, just because I know it's gonna flip you out.
Yeah. I should not want, what I say should not offend you in any form
Right,
or fashion,
right,
because I come with no offense.
right. And then go ahead.
I was going to say, and not only that, but it's allowing each of us to express what we feel in our heart is important. And if it offends me in some way, then I'm not seeing the God within you as sharing.
Mm.
On the other hand, when we look at whoever we're speaking to and we see their higher self, we can accept that maybe they're not, they may not accept what we're sharing and it may upset them, but somehow or other, and I think we've all experienced this, we have a way of sharing what it is that stops them from arguing to a point. We just begin to realize, well, they're not ready to hear it, so therefore I'm not going to cast. I think there's a thing in the Bible: do not cast your pearls among swine. And what that basically means is, if a person isn't ready to hear what you have to say, you'll be able to sense that. So therefore, then you don't have to say that. If they ask, then you share what it is that you want to share.
I think what I'm seeing here is finding the right switch to turn on the light within the person. In other words, you have a message, you want to give it to that person, you know how their mindset, what their mindset is, and you know that to talk to someone who is not of like-minded, there is a way to get the message across to them so that it will at least start them to thinking outside of the box, so to speak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very well said, Terry.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other things that I like about here is, when it says God, infinite personality, one of the things that I think that has confused a lot of people is that when a personality or form has been placed on essence, it turned into something that looked like us. When it said, saying the hand of God, the right hand of God, that was expressed because through ancient times, having the right hand do something meant it was absolutely secure. It had more symbolism as it had form. So when we see our own personalities, we judge ourselves based on something that was misinterpreted. Now we judge ourselves based on somebody else's misinterpretation. So when it's hard for us to see limitless personality, like God, it says the first line, God or spirit is supreme, infinite, limited personality. I can't see God's personality without seeing this right hand of God, God's feet, God's voice, all of these things that I so much lack. But when I begin to shift that way of consciousness so that I can, where it says the next one, we should think of the divine being as such, as completely responsive to everything we do. There should come to us a sense of communication, a spontaneous sense of irresistible union. So now I understand that, yes, this whole portion of wholeness and security, that is my, I can meld, that is my personality too. I can see my personality like that, because I'm responsible enough. I paid enough bills to know that which ones I really I need. I'm still living in my same house for 20 some odd years. It's because I have had that much security. I have used my right hand that way, as opposed to thinking that as it being only personality. Now I am understanding the concept is more relevant and more important than what it looks like. And I think
just to ask a question, and so you can keep going, Pen, is again, like I asked, is it that we come out of that knowledge when we stop punishing ourselves for what has been said to us, that we are first of all damned, or that we are once we come out of that knowledge of so-called we were cursed, once we I guess for people who kind of have been raised in the church or know the Bible, we kind of have been spoken like, something bad happened and this is why you live the way that you live. Once you kind of come out of that thinking, is it is that point where you start to understand that you have been punishing yourself because of not God's law but man's law?
Yeah, I think so. And this is also in the Jesus taught, we're not to judge each other, and it begins with by not judging ourselves, and also not to criticize. And it's easy for us sometimes to not judge others, but we have a hard time when it comes to judging ourselves. And as you were saying, Andre, thinking that you did something wrong, and so therefore you're punishing yourself because of that. And as you learn not to do that, we begin to then learn a much better way of living, and we begin to let go, of that. So if we stop and follow the idea of not judging myself as well as others, not criticizing myself as well as others, then we begin to let go, and we begin to see ourselves as God sees us.
Okay.
Now, Penelope may have something to add too. I sort of jumped in, but
no, that was perfect. That was perfect. Yeah.
It was just a question. It was just
it was a good
back
question.
to that question.
That was a good question.
Because that's what I'm
this
kind of
is-
seeing from this point of view.
Andre, you're very good at doing that. You're good at asking such good questions. I mean, I really enjoy that about you.
Yeah, this is such big concepts, and I think that yeah, we had lost everybody for a minute, and everybody back. I think that this is a good pace to be going at, so that we can really understand, to really lodge out all of those things. And this is a safe space. And I like it that we are learning, because sometimes, things do come up in conversation with somebody else that's from that we are not necessarily in like mind with. And, we don't necessarily can use their language as easily. I have found that to be true for myself. I can't find, I can't say to you that, if you didn't go to church, that you turned your back on God. I can't even hear that. So I have to respond to that. And I have found that that when I do now, because of this group, I do pay attention to my tone, because I understand that this person is probably, is very attached to this concept, and they might, and it might hurt them to hear something different. So I guess I can start the round table. Because that's kind of what I'm learning from today's session, is how to understand all of these big concepts, so that when I am confronted with somebody else, or when I am confronted with, old concepts that need to be read in my own life, I can, I have the language to present my idea. And I have the tone of voice that I feel is safe, and I have the way to ask a question or to carry on a conversation, so that it can be a dialogue, and it doesn't have to end in anybody's fear. Their fear of having to, here the devil that sprung up out of nowhere in this middle of this conversation, because
Ha 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 ha! I'm the monster.
Here we go,
yeah,
Tina.
so that they don't be
Yeah.
afraid of that type of, yeah, and that I don't seem to be, that person that's, trying to steal them away from, or trying to implant new ideas into their consciousness. So this is one of the things that I am really want to focus on, is like the answer is in man. This whole actually everything we've read today has really been in alignment with our Course in Miracles. It was in alignment with what we talked about yesterday in the book of Enoch, and is actually in alignment with Kabbalah that we had talked about last week. Is everything is saying how I can be more able to demonstrate effectively. And so, yeah, so this is the thing that's where I want to work from here, is allowing myself to, that this is my new authentic self. This is, it is my new authentic self, because, this is what was always there, but it's just being brought to the surface. So it's reminding me of who I always was, but who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So who's next on the roundtable circuit? What did you get from this section today, and how can you apply it in our lives? In your lives?
I can go next. Lesson 5, the perfect whole. And I think what I got from this today is that with patience, I can work on being my perfect self. And I am also becoming my perfect self, and I'm using that in quotes, to help others to become their perfect self as we move forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is Tay is Tay still here?
Yeah, you want to? Yeah, round table.
What I got from it today was very thought provoking. First and foremost, I want to thank y'all for that. I would say more or less what my mind has been throughout this conversation is just a back to source type thought process, and back to like the original seeking for peace or wholeness, and how to, look at it in an aspect, like common things coming over here and building with y'all is there's no one way to get to that point, because we all have a piece of the puzzle, and just by me coming over here, I get a different piece that I wouldn't get, going around the corner. Not saying that I wouldn't get it, but just the simple fact that, I chose to come over here. I chose, to be on that pathway. And if I think what I got from it most today is, like the sister said, when you're ready to ask the question, or you got the question, the teacher's gonna appear, type deal. And trying to listen to the teacher as the universe teaches me, whether it be through, riding down the street, sitting in the chat with you guys, or, like I could be watching Ninja Turtles or something stick out to me, and that thing, it happens like that. So just trying to be more.
You were muted. You muted yourself for a second.
Okay, y'all.
Yeah. The last little part we heard was Ninja Turtles. Then you got muted. So, cowabunga.
I was saying,
Cowabunga.
I'm sorry. I was saying that be teachable in being able to be a student in all things, to where I could be taught from, the source, whether it be Ninja Turtles or walking down the street or whatever it may be. I could, if I got the question, if I really want to know the answer to, and I'm in the right vibration, that vibration is going to reciprocate and give me an answer.
Thank you.
Very nicely said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're here.
My pleasure.
How about you, Forrest? What did you get
Okay.
from today's session, and how can you apply it to your life?
Well, with the science of the mind, it always helps me in all areas of my life, because I think everything is coming from your mind, your actions, what you do, what you talk, what you think. So with science of the mind, what I've learned today is that I was feeling sick when I came in, but now I'm healed just by being in this group. So I'm grateful for this group, because the science of the mind made me to say, you know what? I'm feeling much better. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's kind of like that. Where was it? The wholeness. When we are whole. Because I think everybody else is feeling well. So you can't help but absorb our energy.
Yes.
That's that sponge. That's that.
Yes.
That spirit going in that sponge. It gave you some healing. How about you, Sakina?
Thank you.
Well, I've enjoyed all the sharing that everyone has done, because it opened my eyes to something that I hadn't thought of before. I mean, I did think of it once in a while, but not as much. I didn't realize how many people in this world are so into seeing with these blinders on. And even though in their heart they want to change, but they don't, as I've said many times, have the courage to step out and to do this. They're afraid of what this one or that one may say, and that. And as I was listening to everyone talk, something that came to my mind was a little thing, and you've probably done it with your children or grandchildren, where you take the hands and you interweave them, and you say, this is the church, this is the steeple, this is the church, this is the door. Open the door, see all the people. First they kneel, then they pray. Well, I did that with my granddaughter, my great granddaughter, and she said to me, "What church do you go to?" And I said, "I don't go to church." And she says, "Well, neither do I." And she says, "But what church should we go to?" And I said, "Your church is in your heart." And I didn't think anything of it. I just said, "Your church is in your heart." And I pointed to my heart. So yesterday, when I went over to babysit, her dad was there and they were talking. And all of a sudden she stopped. She says, "Daddy, I got to tell you something." And he said, "What?" And she says, "Do you know your church is in your heart? God's not out there. God is in your heart." And, I'm listening to Harriet and what she said and that. And so then everybody was sharing now, that came to my mind. So to me, that was an example of my words just didn't fall on this 3-year-old and then they dissipated. She took what I said and took it a step further and told her dad. And I think, I just demonstrated it through a little, nursery verse there. And I think that's what each one of us does in our daily life as we live without even realizing it. We're teaching and we're learning simultaneously. We're the teacher and the student. And it's by being true to ourselves. And I think that's what Ernest Holm in this book is trying to tell us, is to know ourselves well enough that we can be true to ourselves and to realize that we not only have chosen God, but God has chosen us. And we live and breathe and move within God as God lives and breathes and moves within us. So thank you, each of you.
Well, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much.
Did we hear from Andre?
Uh,
Did we hear from Andre?
No, I don't think so.
oh, we didn't. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Andre?
I'm still here. First of all, I want to thank you all from what I've learned from this round table. It takes the strength and the courage and the responsibility and the newness and the understanding and the compassion to create what we are speaking of. And I think of what we've been studying today has been speaking of is a church and something that energy can flow through and we can learn. And listening to you all speak today is really inspiring. It puts me into a situation to definitely push harder for the knowledge that I've given, not only just outside of me, but for Inner Haven as well. Because I do have a core belief in a believing, and I have people who are with me and who care and can understand. And that's all I think we are asking as individuals, is for someone to listen to us and understand us. So thank you all for showing me the greatness in the God in you all. And I'm gonna give my brother Tay dap right now, for doing that. And I give you all the best wishes for rekindling that part of me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, well, then that was make sure that was everybody, right? Thank you for today's session, because it was really a good session. And seemed like in the beginning everything was going wrong. Couldn't find this, didn't have that, something else was going on, the computer wasn't working. There was always something going on, but we got to it and it was fantastic. I really see that in that space, I could see our determination to get here. you know? So and look at the payoff that we got from wanting, from needing, from choosing to be here. I think we got a good payoff. So let's see. We don't have anything going on tomorrow. But we have A Course in Miracles on Wednesday from 5 to 6:30. We have I Am from 11 on Thursday morning. Then on Thursday evening, we have the Book of Longings. That's from 7 to 7:30. So
8:30.
I was 7 to 8:30. Oh my goodness, yeah, half an hour. We wouldn't get anything. So we have so yeah, so I Am Thursday morning from 11 to, say around about 11:30, and 7 p.m. the Book of Longings from 7 p.m. to 8:30. Then and this Saturday we have we're gonna have a field trip, everybody field trip, going to Yogaville to be a part of the Gnostics. What did you say? The Gnostics International? Is that the name of the group?
American Gnostic Society, I think it's
The American Gnostic Society. We will be just listening to somebody else's views and see how they all fit in, just like Tate just said, like a puzzle piece. Because that's what I believe, that all philosophies are. They're all just puzzle pieces. When we come together with them, we'll be able to see the whole big picture. And then the following Sunday, is that something? I don't even know what that.
That would be the 28th.
That would be the 28th. So maybe we can do a Kabbalah if y'all want to, because that is Memorial Day weekend. That whole weekend is Memorial Day weekend. So we can play that one by ear too, see how it feels. If you all want to, go out and have a cookout or whatever y'all do on Memorial Day, because I never visited anybody's graves. I never did that kind of thing. That was never what I did on Memorial Day. But I don't know. So if anybody wants to, if we want to do Memorial Day, or if you want to, do Kabbalah, just let me know. We can figure it out. No, no big deal. And I think that's it for today. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
I have a question. When are you doing your tarot reading again?
Oh, the tarot. I'm thinking about probably doing it in June. I gotta think either June or July, sometime this summer.
Yeah, I thought you said June 24th.
Oh, I did? June 24th?
Yeah, we had talked about that, but nothing's written in stone.
Right. And see, I don't have my calendar handy. So June 24th sounds like a good time.
Well, you said it was before the 4th of July.
Yeah,
we're all calling on you, Penn, for tarot. We're all calling. I told you. You gave me the loudmouth cards. We're all calling on you for tarot.
We appreciate everything you have to say.
Ring the alarm.
Yeah, so that would be kind of cool. So here it is. It's June the 24th, y'all. That's when it is.
All right.
Okay.
And that's for the Tarot Expo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And everybody, just don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on our YouTube page. And you can find Inner Haven on YouTube when you look for the green circle with the white letter I in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. Well, that was it for today. Would anyone like to close us out in prayer? How about you, Forrest?
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come to you with an open heart, open mind, just to say thank you for the presence of being with us today. As we move forward in our journey, let us be the presence of happiness, the presence of peace, the presence of hope, and the presence of greatness. And God within us keeps us strength that we can come through any challenges in our life with the mindset of greatness in everything in our lives. And so it is.
So it is.
And so it is. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll see you on what, on Wednesday?
Love
This is
you
awesome.
all.
Love
Bye.
Love you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Wait, that